Hello everybody and welcome back to our next episode in the series of reviews of IMDb's top 50 greatest films of all time. Last week we discussed Once Upon a Time in the West. Today we are discussing It's a Wonderful Life all the way back from 1946. It was directed by Frank Capra. It stars James Stewart, Donna Reed, Lionel Barrymore, Thomas Mitchell, and Henry Travers. Now, you may recognize James Stewart's name. We previously reviewed Rear Window, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, which also starred him. One of my lesser viewed reviews. It is a very old film from, I believe, 1957 or thereabouts, although it is still very good. If you haven't seen that review, go check it out. But for right now, let's talk about this one. So what is the plot to It's a Wonderful Life? If you aren't already familiar with the film, it tells the story of a man named George Bailey. It tells his life story from the perspective of angels in heaven, who in the beginning of the film are depicted as stars rather briefly, stars in the sky, meaning through a series of events in George's life, an angel named Clarence is sent to intervene, to show him how much his life means to him and how much he means to everyone else. It's one of those movies, it was the first one of those movies. That pen's going back there, and now we're gonna discuss It's a Wonderful Life. One thing that I want to talk about is how this story is commonly parodied, or, people do their own versions of it, TV shows do episodes based off of it, and while that's all well and good, the story that you're probably familiar with for It's a Wonderful Life is that an angel makes it so a man never existed, and he can see what life was like without him having any impact on the world. That plot probably sounds a lot more familiar to you. It is from It's a Wonderful Life, but the story doesn't actually get to that point until well over an hour and 30 minutes into the film, and the film's only 2 hours and 10 minutes long. Pretty long for its time, but what most people associate, the plot points that most commonly are tied to It's a Wonderful Life, don't happen until the final act of the film. So, if you're seeing this movie for the first time, and you're interested in seeing it, you like that premise, just know that that isn't really the point of the movie. The point of the movie is to tell the story of George Bailey and his life, him growing up, him, as a young man, meeting his wife, his relationship with his family, with his father's company, how he deals with that, with the town around him. He has these big ambitions of going off and exploring the world, and he never gets to do that. He decides to stay in the town of Bedford Falls, where he makes life better for everyone at times his own expense. Now, that's not really a spoiler for the film, that's just describing very generally what goes on. He's from a small town, he's got big dreams, but will he ever be able to achieve them is one of the points of the film, and this is an excellent film. I don't really know where I was going with that. Oh my gosh, I apologize. But speaking of George Bailey, I don't know what that was, I apologize once again. James Stewart kills it as George Bailey. He does a fantastic job, and that's not really, killing it is not really a phrase that would be used to describe It's a Wonderful Life, but I'm going to use it anyway. He kills it in this movie. He does a great job selling this character. He is a very compassionate man, but at the same time, he's kind of down on his luck. He's, filled with anxiety, almost kind of depressed. He's got issues going on in his life. This is, again, near the end. I don't feel terrible about talking about this movie that much, because number one, it's pretty old, alright? It's over 70 years old. I think it is 70 years old. That doesn't make it any worse, though. You really, if you haven't seen this movie already, you should see it. I think that this is the best Christmas movie ever made, or one of them. There are a few movies that I think of like the best Christmas movies. This is definitely the best in terms of actual filmmaking. This is the best film that is a Christmas movie, but there are other movies I like to watch around Christmas, like Elf, Home Alone, A Christmas Story, which, is on 24 hours a day on Christmas Day, and, Die Hard is a Christmas movie too, so feel free to throw that in during your Christmas movie marathon, which I'm sure someone out there does. Back to the performances, James Stewart is fantastic. Donna Reed, in her first starring role, does an excellent job as his wife Mary. That is a great storyline to see play out, their relationship, and how that works, and how they meet and how they grow closer to one another. That's something that's really, really good. It's really fun to watch. It's an enjoyable film. It's an uplifting film, and I think the performances carry that. Henry Travers as the Angel Clarence does a great job, even though he does have a pretty brief appearance. He's only in the movie for about 20 minutes, but he makes an impression, and he does a great job conveying his character's effect on James Stewart's effect, and on James Stewart's character rather. And James Stewart does a great job embodying George and how he feels that he's being literally contacted by an angel. They play off of each other very well for the relatively brief screen time that the two of them share together. As I was saying before, the atmosphere of this film, it is a Christmassy movie, even though a lot of the snow scenes were filmed on a Hollywood backlot in 90-degree weather, and you can see James Stewart sweating in his suit, running around like it's Christmas Eve when really it's, July, which is today, Christmas in July sort of thing. I'm sorry, this pen is kind of broken, it's rolling all over the place. Moving onward, this film has aged phenomenally well. Lots of times movies become dated over time. What was originally perceived as a classic and the end-all be-all of filmmaking kind of gets worse as time goes on. You look at it and say, hey, that really doesn't look good today. I know people have complaints about the CGI or what would be CGI today. I think they use miniatures for the spaceship stuff in the original Star Wars. Watching that today doesn't really look that good. The AT-ATs in the beginning of The Empire Strikes Back, they look kind of jagged, stuff that they did with stop motion. Even some old CGI, people are saying that doesn't hold up today, and it lessens the quality of the film watching it in a time where film has advanced so much. It's a Wonderful Life, I feel, actually gets better because it's so classic that you can't help but admire how well done it is by today's standards. Now, I'm not saying that today is the best time for Hollywood, no, because it's almost completely oversaturated with superhero films and reboots, some of which are good, others of which shouldn't exist at all and are absolutely terrible. But a film like this, it wouldn't be made today. It's not a story that I think people would be interested in paying $14 to see in a theater, but for the time when it came out, it's fantastic, and all the way through the 1900s into today, still today, it holds up great, it is still fun to watch, it is still worth watching, and I would recommend this to anyone who hasn't seen it, and if you've already seen it, it's time to see it again, because this is a great film. This is also my second time this is so annoying. I'm sorry, every time I do one of these reviews it happens, and I don't like it when that happens. As I said, with pretty much everything I've reviewed recently, I was watching it for a second time. The first time I saw this was Christmas, about 2 years ago, and I never saw it again. I watched it and I said, hey, that's pretty good, but I didn't really think too much of it. I knew how well it was viewed in the film community, how highly it is held as quality in the cinema world, but I never felt a strong urge to sit down and watch it again, and we didn't watch it this most recent Christmas, and I can tell you that I will certainly be watching it this upcoming Christmas because it is much, much better the second time I watched it. I was paying attention more. Granted, it's not like I watched this, very recently and just watched it again. As I said, it's been almost 3 years since I saw it, but I really thought that it was a great film, and it doesn't have to be Christmas to watch. That's the other thing. I can't see myself watching Home Alone right now. Not that Home Alone is anywhere near as good as It's a Wonderful Life, but I think that the great thing about It's a Wonderful Life is it succeeds fantastically as a Christmas film, and it succeeds even better as a film in general, and that is why you need to see this movie. It is great. It is just so, so good. And now, we're going to see if this guy agrees with me, see what he has to say. Let's see. It's a Wonderful Life, 1946. Take a guess. 1946. James Stewart. Yeah, he's given it 4 stars. It's a sentimental tale of Stewart, who works all his life to make good in small town, thinking he's failed and trying to end his life. Guardian Angel Travers comes to show him his mistake. Only Capra and this cast could pull it off so well. This film seems to improve with age. Capra, Francis Goodrich, Albert Hackett, and Joe Swirling expanded Philip Van Doren Stern's short story The Greatest Gift, which had originally been written by Stern as a Christmas card, remade for TV as It Happened One Christmas, also shown in computer-colored version. If you watch the colored version, you're a degenerate. Watch the black and white version. It's probably much, much better, and it just adds to that vibe of being super great, and I think it would be really distracting because everything would look awful and yellow if you watched it in a computer-colored version. At least it wasn't made in a color shot-for-shot remake like Psycho was, because that would be horrific, and I would never want to, you know, have the possibility of coming across that in my life. One thing that I do want to touch upon is that this, like many other great films that people hold very highly today, this was not well received at all when it was released initially to critics. It was actually pretty panned. They hated it. Critics did not like this film at all. And even though that was the case, it didn't make a lot of money, not a lot of people saw it, and a lot of critics advised against seeing it and gave their own bad reviews. I don't know what they were thinking or what they thought was better, but it still received 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Actor for Jimmy Stewart and Best Picture. It won neither, but, you know, I think it deserved them. I've heard of many of the actors Jimmy Stewart was running against. I'm not sure if I've seen any of their films. In fact, I'm not sure if I can actually name any of the actors. I don't think I can. But, that being said, he does a great job, as I said before. This film is excellent. Is it any good? Absolutely. Please go see It's a Wonderful Life. And is it deserving of its placement? Yes. I think that, quite honestly, it is at a perfect spot on this list. The coming films that I'm going to review, I have seen all of them except for one. I still need to watch Seven Samurai by Akira Kurosawa. But everything else on this list I have seen. Everything else on this list I will need to rewatch. But, as I said, I've seen it, and we're going to talk about it. It's going to be great. See this movie, perfectly placed on this list. Maybe I'd put it a little higher, but I'm perfectly content with where it is right now. Next week, we will be discussing the one, the only, The Silence of the Lambs, which is a great film. If you haven't seen that, I don't know what you've been doing with your life. But anyway, I hope that you have enjoyed this review. You know that I love making them, and I hope that you enjoy watching them. Please leave a like, leave a nice comment, or offer your criticism. You know what? Seeing the comments on these videos, don't do that. But, you know, like the video, see the movie, lots of stuff you could be doing. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you when I see you, which will probably be Tuesday. Thank you.